In this next series of videos, I'm going to be talking to you about energy analysis, and in this first video, preparing a project for energy analysis. Energy analysis is used for the HVAC systems and is centered around heating and cooling loads. Once you've created your spaces in a project and specified the settings for building types and other items, you use the heating and cooling loads to test and calculate the information. This information can also be exported as a GBXML file for additional energy analysis. Now, as you can see from this video here, this example, this is a building that we've created our spaces, and we've also now created our zones based on the room types, etc. But before we can add our HVAC systems into the project, so again this is early on in the project development, before we even do anything with our HVAC ductwork systems, we need to analyse the heating and cooling loads based on what our requirements are, looking at the different room types that we've got. Now, in case you're wondering why we've got different colours based on this side of the room and this side, don't forget there'll be a north somewhere on this particular project. It could be at the top of this page. So these classrooms are going to have a different heat cooling requirement compared to this side, which is going to be in shade if this is north, and likewise on these areas here. Also, it depends on the people that's in the rooms and types of rooms. So I say, before we do the HVAC systems, we need to analyse the heating and cooling loads. We must first have our spaces and zones in place, and then we can either use the heating or cooling loads tools that come with Revit, which I'll show you a brief example here today, or we can export this, as I said, into a GBXML file, which is a green building XML file, which can be used in third-party or other third-party softwares. Now, before running the analysis software, we need to verify that we have certain things done. We need to verify that all the areas in the project are set up with space elements, including unoccupied shafts, plenums and sliver spaces. We need to add spaces to zones other than a default zone. So initially there's always a default zone set up within Revit from the start, but we need to sort of ignore that and set up our correct zones that we want. The default zone will be calculated, but it might not work correctly, as the spaces and the default zone can be differ greatly based on our information. And then the sliver spaces, they do not necessarily show up in a plan view, but they do show in an analytical model. And if I just quickly go to here and click on this, so I've gone into Analyze and I've clicked on Heating and Cooling Loads. And this is what Revit will start to do. It will start analysing the spaces that you've got set up and the zones, and it'll give you some basic information here that we can use for our heating and cooling, such as building type, location, in this instance the one floor, the ground floor, type of construction, sliver space tolerances, in other words, ignore anything under 300 mil, etc, etc. The details tab will go further on that in another video. So for now, these are just the basics. So in preparing our model, we need to go through a few items first. So as I say, preparing a few items first. So to do this, we've added in our spaces, we've added in our zones. We need to take more steps to prepare the entire project for the analysis, including energy settings, building space type settings, etc. Now for these type of things, if we go, we're in the Analyze tab here, if we go across to the energy settings, you can see that we've started to look at some of these energy settings. Again, we've got some energy analytical model, what we want to work with, and if we scroll down, we've got some advanced other options, which when we click on this, it starts giving us more information, such as building type. Now, with this having classrooms in it, I wouldn't call this an office. I'd probably call this a school, university. And then we've got other areas. We're looking at the spaces, conceptual types, which is the thermal properties, etc. So there's a few settings there. Also, we have now, based on your software version that you're using, this is obviously using 2020 version, but as you're aware, some of these settings change. The locations of finding these buttons, etc., change. So I know some of you students may have 2018 or 2019 version of this software, so you might find it slightly in different locations, so you'll just need to study your version to find out whether it's in the same place. So we looked at this energy settings here, so Analyze tab and then energy settings, and that brought us up this item here. But in some of the older versions, this energy settings would have also included some of these options here, such as location. And obviously location will give you this this map criteria based on, you know, the location, so as you can get weather information. So it uses the dry bulb, wet bulb, mean average, etc., all based on that location. Other information for the orientation and position in relationship to other buildings. So you might find that these could be together in the energy settings, whereas in this 2020 version it's split up into different ones. Right, now on the other area that we need to look at is the building type settings. Now there's a couple of locations that you can find this. I'll show you both of those locations now. So from the Manage tab, we click through and go to MEP settings and click on this button here, and then go down to building/space type settings, and that will open up this box. This is where we need to set our parameters based on the building type. So for example, if we're looking at a school or university and click on this, you can see that we've got the figures jump differently from when we, you know, choose a museum, penitentiary, police station, etc. Some of these figures change. But we can see, you know, how much square meterage per person, etc. Power, lighting, you know, when's the school going to be occupiable? Between 8 and 9. When's the lighting going to be on? Between 7 and 9, etc. So this is where we set all our figures based on the building type that we're using. So that's one method of finding this this area here. The other method is if we just go to the Analyze tab here, and then under this Reports and Schedules, we just click on this down arrow here, and this will take us straight through to the same place. Again, if you hold your cursor over the down arrow, you can see the keyboard shortcut BS at the end of where it says Building Space tab settings. Now going into this a little bit further, so say we've chosen this school or university, we can go into this further to try and look at further items. Let's see what we can change here. So if we look at the occupancy, we click on the box that we've got in the value, and we click on this little 3 box at the end here, and this will give us another tab which is the schedule settings. So on here, we can set factors based on the time of when we want, in this time occupancy from 7 o'clock. We're going to have 5% staff in by this time, 8 o'clock 75% in, and then taking assumptions 90%, 80% through, and then towards the rest of the evening it starts tailing away towards 10 o'clock when it closes. So we can set each of these different things to give us this profile of how it interacts with the analyzing tools. Let's see what we've got on the lighting power as well. Again, how much lighting are we going to need at these times? So we can go through and set all these up accordingly. And all this is just in preparation before we even start to actually model anything.